Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the worst idea of all time pre-roll section.
That's right. We did it, bitches. We figured out how to stitch two different audio files seamlessly into one.
It's only been 19 months since we kicked this podcast off and we've figured out audio editing. You said it couldn't be done. You said they'll never figure it out. They're Kiwis. They're stupid. They're backwards. Their brains, they're misformed and malnourished. Well, check it out, bitches.
We have the most nourished brains in the car right now. It's just the two of us. We're in a car.
We're on the corner of Santa Monica and Western Avenue in Los Angeles, California. And I believe I'm pronouncing that right.
We've turned the air conditioning down to zero. We're roasting in here.
We are positively melting into our seats.
That's right. If you were to leave any form of human being in this car unattended for, I don't know, longer than 10 minutes, they would be a puddle.
But we're not here to talk to you about the sensational Californian heat. We're here to talk to you about another sponsor. We got another sponsor. We're big deals now. Huge deals.
And accordingly, we needed the sponsor to have the word big in their name.
So we went around scrounging and we found a bloody beauty. An internet service provider in Auckland. Well, it's in New Zealand.
And
I found them in Auckland, though, by the name of Big Pipe. Big Pipe are wonderful.
Now, if you're an American listener, you're probably taking a quick dip in the jealous sea right now, knowing you can't sign up with the good folks at Big Pipe. To which I say, booyah, sucks to you, suffer in your jocks, mate.
You silly assholes have some sort of crazy monopoly system over here for your internet. In New Zealand, we get our pick of the litter, and my pick, 100%, is Big Pipe.
That's right. If ISPs were puppies, Tim would be he'd be breaking into houses and taking little puppy Big Pipe every single time.
I'm connected to Big Pipe at my home.
I think the reason that you would take this puppy from the litter, Tim, is on account of the fact that you have no real you're not beholden to this puppy. You've got no real obligations. I mean, it's up to you to enjoy it as much as possible. But guess what? You haven't signed a contract. You're just holding a loose puppy.
What a stunning way to get into a unique sales proposition offered by Big Pipe. No contracts, no throttling, great online support.
No throttling. They do not come round to they don't come round to your house and take you by the neck. And that's a Big Pipe promise.
That is a guarantee. You can use as much goddamn internet as you want, and you can be with them for just go on them for a couple of months.
Here's an idea. Okay, who are you with right now? Forget about them. Throw them out the window, all right? Sign it with Big Pipe just for a month. Just a little taster, all right? Have a nibble. It's like a free, when you go past Starbucks and they give you some free garbage whipped flavored cream, just try it.
They've got a great fast plan that's only $79 a month, which in American dollars is about $3.
That's right. In
So
New Zealand
be
dollars,
jealous,
that
American.
is still $79, all right? The value of the New Zealand dollar relative to New Zealand is always the same.
It's bloody good, though. They're a great internet service provider. They cut costs everywhere by, removing stupid shit like call centers.
And
so
also
that
they cut costs
cheap.
by hiring us previously to make some web ads for them, which we will put on the page for your viewing pleasure.
You're going to love Big Pipe. We do too. And you can try them for a month free with the code WORSTIDEA when you sign up. Worst Idea. WORSTIDEA. I didn't need to spell that out.
Spelt in the traditional manner.
You're not a dum-dum.
Now
you know
get
what's
on
up.
with your life and enjoy the episode, you dingus.
BigPipe.co.nz.
Worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. Season 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the worst idea of all time, episode number 30, but watch number 31. Because of certain complicated contractual reasons, we can't release the episode we recorded yesterday for 2 weeks, which we did at LA Podfest. Hashtag DQL Uniqua.
DQL.
Yeah.
DeQuell.
Changed it
like
up.
the former Cleveland Browns middle linebacker, DeQuell Jackson.
The man you can hear there is Guy Montgomery.
That's right. The man who you heard talking before is Tim Batt, and we have a very special guest this week. Please welcome to the microphone, Paul F. Tompkins.
Hello. It's me, Paul F. Tompkins.
It is.
From America and in America.
The credits are limitless. And I won't bore everyone with going through them.
We did get the highlights there, though.
You'll probably know him most recently from BoJack Horseman and his own podcasts, of which there are several. Spontaneous Nation being...
It's been whittled down to just the one now.
Anything else you want to plug right at the top before we get into this, Paul?
Just my love of cinema.
Yeah.
I love it.
Who
You've
doesn't?
graciously accepted us into your home to do this viewing.
It's my pleasure.
I'm not even wearing shoes right now. You bought us dinner. What a guy. And then how did we reward you? We unleashed Sex and the City 2 for not the first time for you, but certainly not the first time for us.
Now, I knew what I was in for.
Mm.
And I had, I'm a listener of the podcast, and I'm all caught up. And I had seen this movie close to the time when it first came out. It turns out I have seen all of Sex and the City, the series, and all of the movies.
Hey.
And I don't quite know how that happened, but my wife is a huge fan. And so a lot of times she would be watching the show in reruns, and I would realize, oh, I've seen this one. And then I realized I think it was that when that show was on, I'd never had cable before. And so it was my first time having premium cable, and I just watched every show that was on HBO.
Excellent.
Even shows I did not like. I watched them because it was HBO, and I was paying for it.
Yeah.
It was like, the quality's better, even if it's a show I don't enjoy. The quality of it is better.
There could have been stuff that you missed, which is very much the mantra of this show as well. You know, you got to watch it a fair few times, get all those details in there in your brain.
Did you guys discover new things?
Today?
Always. Yeah, constantly, with every watch. With every watch.
Look, I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. You're not on trial here.
Sure sounds like it,
List
Paul.
10.
Paul, I'm just keen to get your thoughts because we have literally just finished the movie now.
Mhm.
What did you think of it?
This movie is not so good.
Mm.
Now, having seen all of this series and all of the movies, a curious thing happened where in the first movie that they did, they sold out all of their characters. They, like, everything that was decent about them, they completely, like, Samantha had a boyfriend who nursed her through cancer. And then in the movie, she's like, I got to break up with this dude. And that's our friend Smith, the movie star.
Are you
Really?
serious?
Yes.
And she...
So
Yeah.
the cancer storyline was in the TV show.
That was in the TV show.
And
then in the
first
movie,
yeah.
she's like, you can't tie Samantha Jones down. I got to break up with you, dude. And he's like, I understand that. And then she fucks him up. Like, she can't take it. She keeps, like, forgive me, my recollections are hazy, and I'm sure someone remembers the movie better than I do. But at some point, she's staying in some beach house or something, and there's a dude that is staying in the house next to her who is a super hot, European, generic European guy who is showering naked on, like, the outdoor beach shower, and she can't take it anymore. And so she breaks up with her boyfriend who nursed her through
really?
cancer. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's
So
horrible,
any
right?
kind of character arc where she's finally learned how to love
Yeah.
and develop, like, a constant one-to-one human relationship.
Yeah.
They just strip it away for the movie.
Yeah.
To sell them tickets.
It's really weird. It's really, really weird. And the idea that Carrie would end up with Big is that was kind of against the, like, it's one of those things where he was an on-again, off-again guy, and he was mysterious and charming and whatever. But the idea that she would end up with him, like, they're meant to be together, just always seemed to me, like, even as a guy who is not emotionally invested in the show.
Well, you
like,
say that.
no, that's the wrong call.
But a
Maybe
lot of,
I am. Maybe I am.
a lot of people have said that is not the first time I've heard that. It's like, at the very least, she should have ended up with Aiden because Aiden's kind of indisputably a good dude. He's a bit of a goofball, but that's what makes him human. He's got some foibles.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
I forget what, maybe it was Rose that you had on the show who was familiar with the series and said that she'd had, like, a number of boyfriends who were, like, decent people.
Yeah.
And she ruined it every time. And it's like she's kind of the villain of the show.
Yeah.
Carrie Bradshaw.
She's the anti-hero, and that's the secret to it.
She's the Tony Soprano of Sex and the City.
But when you have, like, those flaws, you can get on board with it as well, as long as they try and
Well,
don't
if
know.
the
There's a way
idea
to
is-
do this in this movie, I know.
Yeah, if the idea is that you learn and you grow, and that doesn't seem to happen in this movie. What really struck me was that, and I don't think I picked up on it at the time, like, she is just acting like an idiot. She's just an idiot through this whole movie. She's like a weird child, and it's like, and these women are, like, grown women. They're older now than they were in the series when they were adult women that were having these, life experiences and everything. And it's like her behavior is unacceptable, and no one is telling her that. No one is saying, like, what are you doing? You're not in high school.
They've-
Why are you acting this way?
They've just sort of put themselves in this bubble. They've painted themselves into a corner where
Yeah.
the four of them just hang out with each other.
Yeah.
No, there are no consequences for our actions.
Yeah. We do everything together. And we make all decisions together. Somebody has a crisis, everyone has to be there at the same
Drop
time.
everything.
And
We are 45 years
Exactly.
old and willing to put every aspect of our lives on hold because one of our gals has a tiny rich person problem.
And I can't speak to how they got along in the series, but it's very evident in this movie that they don't even like as the characters don't even like hanging out with each other anymore.
And yet they insist on doing everything together, but they seem to regard each other like, you again? What do I have to, why do I have to be here with you?
It seems to me like the characters are at the point, and it's painfully apparent on screen, that they're wretched, but no one else can stand them. So they just gravitate to the people who will stand them, which is each other. Like, they're so shit, they're on another level. I feel like I'm heaping a lot of hate on, and this is something that I was afraid of, Paul, coming in, is that I don't want the fact that Guy and I have seen the movie 30 times before to colour your opinion of the film. Some people loved this movie.
Sure.
They're not in the majority, I think, but, you know.
And I'll say this. I think it's possible to love a movie that you recognize is not a great movie.
Yeah.
Probably everybody has one of those where it's like, if a movie I love, if you challenged me on it, I could say, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's garbage,
Yeah.
but I still enjoy watching it very much.
Have you got one off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, but I know for a fact. I will tell you this. Like when I was a kid, I loved Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right? It's really not that good a movie, but I would, and I recognize that watching it later in life, like, this is not that good, actually. There's a lot of problems with it, but it's still very enjoyable for me to watch.
It's like ice cream. It can be enjoyable without being good.
Do you know what our friend the Cookie Monster said?
What's that?
Now, this guy, he loves cookies, right?
does.
He's a bit of a monster about them. But even he had to admit eventually, cookies are a sometimes food. They're not an every time food. And that's from a monster about cookies.
Who still managed against all odds to curb his cookie eating habits.
Exactly. He's like, all right, I gotta lock this down.
At some point. Do you have a movie that you recognize as being awful but you love?
No. I blindly like any movie Hugh Grant is in. Just
I did
on
not expect that.
just on goodwill.
He's a very watchable dude.
Yeah,
He's very watchable.
I'm pretty.
I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty
okay.
sure. A lot of those movies aren't that good, but like Hugh Grant seems okay.
Do you know what's kind of a mean movie that I didn't realize at the time is Love Actually? There's like a lot of weird fat jokes for no reason.
Sure. But Love Actually is very hard to not like as well.
It's very watchable,
Very
but
watchable.
man, oh man, that movie has some problems.
Really, I haven't revisited
Yes.
it for years.
Well, the whole big romantic thing with Andrew Lincoln, the Walking Dead dude, when he makes the sign to show to his friend, this woman that he's in love
Yeah.
with, and she's just charmed by this. And it's terrifying. It's
very
so creepy.
inappropriate.
It's
Yeah,
extremely inappropriate. And like what he writes is like, to me, you are perfect. I would never want anyone to say that to me. Like, I know I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
You have a skewed idea of who I am as a human being.
And this is his big recovery after she finds out he's been filming her exclusively.
Yes!
He was hired as the wedding videographer.
Yes. Yeah.
Those
That's
aren't
insane. Even the Cookie Monster eats cookies sometimes.
Those aren't the moves of like a with it dude who you want to spend your life with.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
I wouldn't go so far as to say psychopathic, but unbalanced.
I would go so far as to say psychopathic.
Yeah,
I think
single-minded.
I'd be terrified of that guy.
Do you have one? That you
Van
can think of?
Wilder.
Oh yeah, you love Van Wilder.
Van Wilder party liaison, and I can't explain it. I think it just came
right top of mind. Van Wilder.
There's something about Ryan Reynolds which is
He's a regular
in
Hugh
spite
Grant.
of every kind of is. In spite of everything that's thrown at him in that movie, which is not a superb cast, far from a good script, not really good at anything, he still finds a way to shine with that Canadian charisma.
Tim made
Can't wait for Deadpool.
Tim
That's
made
what I'm
his
saying.
senior English class study that as like an academic text.
Oh yeah,
What?
in my MediaWorks class.
How did you arrange that?
the
How did you
teacher-
make people do that?
The teacher took a shine to me and he said, Tim, whatever movie you pick, we're going to study for the final exams. And I went, Van Wilder, Derek. And he said, okay, I've never seen it, but sounds good. And then we watched it, and then the school got a letter from the government department that grades everyone saying, hey, got a lot of essays about dog semen-filled cream rolls this year. maybe don't do that again. So that's want to happen when you put a student in charge of a media studies class every now and then.
that was a bold call on the part of that teacher.
I think we can safely say that this movie doesn't sit in the same canon as any of those films. Though this is like,
No.
this is just, it's an affront from top to bottom,
Yeah.
side to side.
And having listened to the podcast, I could tell you guys, obviously you guys were struggling with this in a way that you weren't with grown-ups too. And then I really felt it tonight. Like, I get it. I get it.
Oh, that's very sweet.
This is, well, if it makes you feel better at
it's
all, if it makes you
understanding.
feel less alone. But it's the running time of this movie is in no way justified. In no way. Like, there is an hour to be cut out of this movie
Easily.
and they just keep doing the same. They keep resetting the same ideas again and again and again. It's like, we get it. You don't have to do it again. Like, I get what she's upset about. I get what she's upset about.
And
I
it's
get
on
it all.
every level. There could be some pretty harsh cutting to the film, because one bit that really stuck out to me this time is fairly early on where they're going to the premiere of Smith Garrett's movie, and Carrie's at home trying to convince Big to go, even though he's had a big day at work because the market fell 100 points.
That's right.
Or whatever. And they show the sequence of her pouring the scotch for him, and you see everything in real time.
Every
so you see her
single step.
walk to the bar,
Yeah.
open the bottle, pour the bottle into a glass,
right.
put the lid literally
That's
back
right.
on the decanter, and walk back with the glass. Like, we don't need go to film class, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to see every single bit of it.
Yeah.
We get it.
I tell you what, you have control over this fake apartment that you've built. Move that drinks cart closer to where he is.
Put it where he sits.
Yeah, put it
would make
right
sense
there.
anyway.
I wouldn't question it. Oh, why wouldn't he want it there if that's where he sits?
Michael Patrick King sort of the execs told him we need 2 hours and 30 minutes of movie. I don't care how much plot you've got. That's how long it's gonna be.
What other explanation
And
could there be?
He runs along and dumps the problem on the set dress. He's like, all the rooms, I need everything as far away from everything else as possible. I want an extra 10 seconds in every goddamn scene of this movie.
Tell you what, though, Paul, there was some genuine, a couple of little chuckles from you, and I don't think for the right reasons, but
Perhaps
scattered along
not.
the film.
Perhaps not.
This film kicked the shit out of me so bad. I'm trying to remember where the really early ones were at the front of the film.
There was some weird visual takes that people had. There were some weird reactions that people had to lines that caught me off guard. That whole wedding at the beginning seems like a million years ago. It's like a world away. It really does. This movie really does feel like you watched a double feature. Like you
Yes.
watched two completely separate movies.
Yeah.
That whole wedding sequence, even they have a hard time justifying things like, oh, these two guys are getting married. Oh, I thought they hated each other. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They
but now they're
totally
married.
did.
And now we will disregard it and not return to them at all.
That's right. Off screen, between movies, they have completely fallen in love and they're getting married now.
Do you think it's possible, much like the Wachowskis' approach to making the second two Matrix movies, this was intended to be Sex and the City 2 and 3, and then they just decided to release it at the same time? Throwing it out there. I don't know.
Well,
I haven't
now-
heard anything.
But the Matrix movies, there were 3 of them. Were there supposed to be 4 of them?
There was supposed to be 2.
Right.
Is my understanding.
Oh, I see.
So the
So they-
studio said to the Wachowskis, it's a trilogy. And they said, nope, it's 2 movies. And they said, nope, it's a trilogy. And then the Wachowskis said, okay, watch this. And it was the worst sequels anyone's ever seen to such a great initial film.
Are you saying the Wachowskis made those movies terrible on purpose?
Not
And
necessarily.
every
but
subsequent movie.
They're still mad at that
Speed
one
Racer
studio?
was great. How dare you? But I feel like they kind of overreached a little bit.
This could have been a Kill Bill situation where it should have been split into 2 movies.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
But the way we're talking about it now is warranting the film existing in the first place.
I get that it's a property that people enjoy, and I
Yeah.
get that the first movie was very successful, and I get that you want to visit with your pals again and all that. But it would surprise me. It surprises me anytime I hear people who were fans of the show that enjoyed this movie, because the first one I get the excitement of it's the reunion. Here's our pals again and everything, despite the way they treat the characters. There's an extended shit joke in the first one where Charlotte is addicted to this yogurt. She keeps eating this yogurt, and then it gives her this horrible explosive diarrhea. Like she shits her pants in front of her friends, and they all laugh at her.
What, really?
Yes.
Charlotte York shits her pants in the first movie.
Yes, she does,
And there's
yeah.
like a big gag of the first
It's
film.
a big, hilarious set piece of the
You know what?
film.
I thought that was a bit much in Bridesmaids. Like, I love that movie.
Right.
But when she takes the dump in the
No,
middle of the
that's-
street in the
that is
bridal
a-
dress, I was like, a little much for me.
Categorically and arguably, that is hilarious.
A bit much for me.
And
but
frankly-
for Sex and the City, the movie?
Charlotte doing it in the first movie sounds funny to me. Also,
But it's like they hate the character.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, do we like her or not? Are we glad this is happening to her? It's really strange because the other characters are treating it like, haha, you had this coming to you. Like, she just hates a fucking
Karma,
yogurt.
bitch.
But look, we're not here to talk about Sex and the City 1.
That's true. Well, let me relate it back. So the first movie seems like it was a lovely wrap on the property.
Yes.
It's like, one
was
more
fun.
time, everyone.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap this
Yeah.
thing up, put a bow on it.
because also my understanding of the ending of it is it's sort of like, and they lived that's the and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
And then you never write, and now we're going to tell you how.
That's why this second one, it seems so cynical. Because you just see the money everyone's making at every point along the way, which surprised me why it's so long.
Yeah.
Because you would think you'd just be like, cool, 90 minutes, let's bang it out, people, let's get it done.
It really is. It really does feel like this is. I think it's always the trouble you face with a known property and the trying to split the difference between doing it for the fans who know these people intimately and like, well, there's people that are going to be visiting this world for the first time or whatever. And I feel like my feeling is you always should err on the side of, let's remember there's going to be people that have no idea who these people are. I don't know. With a second movie, I guess you earn the right to just make it directly for the fans, but knowing you have a built-in audience, but still, it
But
was
you have
just
to
like,
do something with it as well.
Yes!
You can't just release a plane trip.
yeah.
That's 2.5 hours long.
And the writing in this, it's so crazily. I don't know that it's lazy. It seems poorly conceived more than anything.
I mean,
Well,
you know
you
the
know-
story of how it got written, though, right?
Yeah,
well, Michael Patrick King
Yeah.
was thrown into a hole
That's
with
right, a
Yeah,
basement.
with was it brandy and cigars?
all manner of whiskey and cigars.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. So a man under duress.
Yeah, I
is
mean,
liable
and
to-
accordingly, some of it's forgivable.
And every once in a while, they just yell down the hole, "More puns."
Yeah.
of which he wasn't great when he started, and they steadily decrease in quality as the film proceeds.
Man, the puns in this movie, holy shit! Like, there's some. It's beyond just groaners. Like, oh, whatever.
You weren't a fan of intervention?
That's the worst. That's the absolute worst.
Midwife
The-
crisis.
The midwife crisis doesn't even make any sense. It
Yeah, no,
it doesn't make any sense because
yeah, the midwife is.
yeah, if there were a midwife character in the movie, I would grant you midwife crisis.
Oh, whoa, you mean like midwifery?
Yeah,
That never occurred to me.
yeah.
I've never put that
That's the
together.
only way it would make sense because, okay, midlife crisis. I know what that is. She's a wife and she's having a hard time. Okay, I get that. Those two things still that doesn't translate to a joke. It doesn't make sense.
How right you are.
It is
Olive
really,
Tompkins.
it's the bare minimum of wordplay. Like, these things kind of sound like each other. Throw it in there.
We're getting pretty down in the dumps here. I want to ask you, my sweet prince, my
Aw.
angel.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, you haven't given me a kiss this episode, and I'm jonesing for one.
Give you a
over
little
here.
kiss.
Yeah.
Oh, I
One
got to
for
see it in person.
One across the room. A kiss is always a gift. My shining light.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Ooh, shining light time.
There was a
I made some notes.
one of the extras in the karaoke bar. He looks a lot like former Canterbury rugby great Col Barrell, who was a prop. And I saw it once, and I thought,
Who looks like this? Sorry.
just
which extra? Which
he's
scene?
sitting when the girls are walking up to sing "I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar." There's a table of three guys, and they walk past them, and I was looking at this one guy. That looks kind of like Col Barrell. He's not a particularly well-known former rugby
Did
player.
he play at the national level, or
I
was
think he
he
might have
just
got a few
regional
caps for
player?
the All Blacks, but he was a stalwart of the Canterbury type 5. And And I was like, that looks a bit like Col Barrell. I was like, maybe that'll be my shining light. And then I thought, no, it's not enough. But then he's in frame when they walk away from the stage as well. And I'm like, that really does look a lot like Col Barrell.
Did that lend credibility to the fact that maybe it was, and that's why they needed to keep him on screen a little longer?
Well, I'd imagine he's probably at the hotel in some sort of coaching capacity for the Rugby World Cup trials.
Of course.
Sure, that
Of
makes
course.
sense.
Not a smart guy. He's been ironically conned. I don't know how he's mixed up in the whole thing. But yeah, anyway, to see Col Barrell doing so well for himself post rugby was a joy.
That's one of the best shining lights I've heard from you in quite a while.
Well, it was a
Fantastic.
bleak watch, but that really did.
Are you going to research it? Or are you going to find out if it
It's
truly was
absolutely
him?
not Col Barrell.
But it was enough the thought that he would be doing so
Yeah.
well.
I want some career averages from that man, though, in the next episode. That'd be good. Paul,
Yes.
enlighten me with your shiningness.
There were a few contenders.
Oh,
I did like that at the wedding in the beginning when they had the microphones to do the vows, there was no feedback on the microphones because a pet peeve of mine is it seems impossible to see a microphone in a movie without there being even a second of feedback. It's like the sound guys are like, how are they going to know that they're talking through a microphone? I better put some feedback in there.
Right.
So I was like, admirable restraint.
So if I can just hit pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
Your first shining light, the first thing that was your favorite bit of the movie is
Yeah.
something that was not in the movie.
Yes, exactly. In the
Okay.
absence of
this
something.
is shades
good.
of you enjoying when there were no airplanes and grown ups. So,
The little Charlotte's youngest baby,
Rosa.
Rosa, she reminded
Don't-
me of. I thought she
Try and
looked.
fancy it up.
She kind of looked like Kristen Shaw. And
Ah.
so that was a pleasant association for me. But I think
Shades of Col Barrel there.
absolutely. She's like a little miniature baby, Kristen Shaw. But I think my absolute shining light was when they were on the plane, and somebody says something kind of risque. There's some little dirty joke when they're at
Is
the
it
bar on
when
the plane.
Samantha says, I've had 4 people in my bed?
Yes. And the bartender does a physical take with the glass, like bangs a glass because she's kind of flustered, but totally deadpan. And it was very, very well done. I was like, good for you, little
Yeah,
lady. That was a great take.
That's gotten laughs out of me, and
Yeah.
I imagine Tim.
She does it perfect.
multiple times before.
She does it perfectly.
I tell you what, week to week, that lady's turning in one of the strongest performances in the film.
But also, what you've brought up in the past is the attention to sound design in that moment, because there is a very beautiful, crisp little chink of the glass, as in a little, almost like a gong.
Oh,
For
it's like
a
I tell you what
punchline.
it's like. It's like when you're playing Hearts on the computer on your old Microsoft, and the first heart is played, and there's that breaking of glass sort of sound.
Indicating that the game is afoot.
Yeah, well, someone's going to be shooting the moon. For the Cards fans out there, you can take that one all the way to the bank.
Tim, may I ask? I know I'm the guest here, and forgive me if this is rude.
Not at all.
What is your shining light this time?
I love a man who takes charge, and Paul F. Tompkins, you are no exception. My shining light this week is, I was just trying to reference which, I'm looking at my notes at the moment to make sure I've got the scene right. That's right. Okay, so it's when they're in, it doesn't matter anyway. It's when they're in Abu Dhabi, and Samantha has just got off the phone with Baydoun, who is the head guy in charge of he's like the clerk.
He's
at
great,
the
by the
office.
way.
He's very good.
That guy's really good. There's weird moments where
Yeah.
there's some people that are acting in this movie in these small roles are like, that's great.
That guy's
person seems like a
excellent.
real person.
Very small.
Yeah.
Like he's, what's the word I'm looking for?
Natural. Like the
Natural.
sheik at the beginning who convinces her to come over to like that guy is great.
He's good. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, he's made some good choices.
compared to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, but
like,
compared to Baydoun,
Baydoun.
Baydoun's in a league of his own.
Of course he is.
Like, get that man to the globe.
he's the Baydoun standard.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Baydoun is phoning down the room charge because they've just been cancelled all of their free accommodation. And in that scene, Samantha is wearing a belt buckle, which looks to me a lot like it has been wrapped in Duracell, which is something you put over the top of your books. And I don't know what the brand name is in America, but in New Zealand, it's Duracell that you put to protect your exercise books when you go to
Okay.
primary school, which is
We would do a lot of times. We would do. They would sell book covers.
Yeah.
That you just fold and put on there, and they would have like all the presidents on them or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
Or we would just cut up a brown paper bag.
What's the wrap though that you put over like the plastic adhesive?
I know what you mean, but I think that came along. Look, I'm a good deal older than you guys, and maybe that was an innovation
You come
after
from
my
the
time.
brown paper bag over a bookcase.
That's right. That did make it sound like I was alive during the Depression.
Why not just put the book in the bag and carry them around like that? That's
That'll
what the
protect them all
bag
the
is for.
Because
What we used to do is 22 miles in the snow uphill barefoot both ways, and we'd spit on our books to protect them.
Mr. and Mrs. Tompkins coming in and you're covering all your books and paper. That's right, Paul. You're doing great.
I remember for lunch we used to put a rock in a pot of boiling water.
Soften it up.
The belt buckle has shades of that specifically reflective Duracell material. And it took me back to my childhood for a brief moment. I wasn't watching the movie anymore, and
Isn't
I
that
relished
funny?
the escapism.
All of our shining lights involved us not being involved with the movie.
Funny that. Now, Paul, every time that we get a special guest on,
Yes.
we like to do a little segment where you pitch the movie to Guy and myself,
Absolutely.
who are my movie financiers.
We are very wealthy movie makers,
Absolutely.
but we're also tasteful.
Certainly.
We don't just throw our money around willy-nilly.
Certainly.
So you'll appreciate that our time is precious.
No, of course.
So
And
welcome.
thank you very much for seeing me. And I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, gentlemen.
Appreciate that.
And I don't think I need to, because I think what I have is a surefire, money-making box office smash.
I'm all ears.
Are you familiar with the TV show Sex and the City?
Yes.
My
Are you
girlfriend
familiar-
made me watch it a lot.
Right? That's what girlfriends do. They love it.
You're telling us.
Now, are you familiar with the movie Sex and the City?
Now, that I know is out there, I have not seen.
It's based on the television show, and it's very similar to it in a lot of ways. What if I told you
Yes.
their stories are not finished?
I would call you a filthy fucking liar, and I would order you out of my office immediately.
And you'd be right to do so, except I have the proof right here. Remember those two gay guys on the show?
Oh, sure. Anthony and the other one.
Stanford.
And Stanford.
Remember how they hated each other?
Wow, yeah. They really didn't care for each other, those guys.
What if
I
this-
cannot imagine anything enabling them to bury the hatchet. Those guys were at each other's necks.
Yeah, they couldn't stand each other.
Yeah.
We open on their wedding.
What?
Yeah, we're turning the Sex and the City world on its ear. Everything is different now.
Well, now, I appreciate your excitement. Your eyes are as wide as saucers.
Yeah, they're as wide as saucers are.
Yeah. The thing is, we got a lot of fans of the show and the movie, and it doesn't, for us, I think, make a lot of sense to just to tear up all the goodwill we've built. So you're shaking your head.
Can I say this? And I say this with all due respect. Audiences, they're dumb. You got to stay a couple steps ahead of them and tell them what it is they want to see. When people were watching Sex and the City, they weren't thinking, oh, I want to see them go to the desert and preach about oppressive regimes. Well, guess what?
Yeah, I definitely know the audience weren't asking for that.
They were not asking for that. They don't know. It's like for Christmas, you get a present. Maybe you're asking for one thing. I want the same thing I like year after year.
Spaghetti,
I
like
want
always.
Yeah, I want spaghetti for
Give
Christmas.
me spaghetti for Christmas,
Then
please.
one year you get pajamas. You weren't expecting that,
That's not Christmas.
but it's what you need. And what we need is to see these women go over, try to impose their views and morals on a foreign culture.
All right, I'm going to need it. So far, I've got Bizarro Sex and the City 1. Give me more. They're in the desert.
They're wearing pajamas, presumably, for a lot of the
There's
film.
spaghetti involved.
I feel as if I probably shouldn't have mentioned pajamas in the Christmas analogy, because I feel as if you're maybe taking it literally. I did not mean to suggest that.
You've really got me here on this pajama hook. So,
Okay, I will say this. There are scenes where they'll be wearing pajamas, for sure.
okay.
God.
That will happen.
That is a very heavy compromise.
That will.
Now, spaghetti? Where are we on the spaghetti?
How do you feel about Asian noodles? Very similar to spaghetti, in the same neighborhood, but unexpected.
I'll do it.
Good news. I can guarantee Sobu Noodles will be a sponsor that is ridiculed in the film. So we have it both ways. First, we have a beauty shot where we get a close-up of the bag, but then also our main character says, I don't want to eat that. Let's go out and eat.
You know, I really like that. In the industry, we call that having our noodles and eating them too.
There we go. You guys understand me.
I think we're on the same
So,
wavelength.
yeah, I mean,
And what are you foreseeing as a duration? And I know it's a little earlier to start spitballing about these sorts of things, but how long do you anticipate a movie like this taking? Maybe 90 minutes is the average for something like this?
Now, an average episode of the TV show Sex and the City was 22 minutes. The running time of the first film, probably in the neighborhood of 90 minutes. Do you see how it keeps getting longer each time?
once. I mean, a movie and a television show are two completely different. Well, yeah. I mean, you know,
and one movie and another movie are also completely different things.
Oh,
So, and this is another movie. It's not the first movie. So it stands to reason this one should be longer than the first one.
So, like 95 minutes, 96 minutes.
For starters.
it's an entree.
Why don't you throw another 60 minutes on top of that?
No, excuse me. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave on that. That is outrageous. I mean, what could possibly justify
You've come in here
that kind of a
with
length?
no plot. You've said we're changing.
No
the
plot.
game.
No plot, sir.
I've heard a bit of plot. I've heard a little bit. You'll have to excuse my comrade. He's
Did you forget about the
deprived of
pajamas?
oxygen.
No one's forgetting about the pajamas. But I mean, while I would like to see them in their pajamas,
And you will.
you know, they got to be doing so. What do we have here? Just woman in pajamas eating noodles, and with new personalities.
Here's what they're doing. They're being fabulous about gay weddings in the beginning. Like, you know how Carrie married Mr. Big? And then he starts the movie by saying the phrase gay wedding over and over and over again to the point where you think he's a despicable bigot. And why is our hero married to him? This seems uncomfortable and I don't like it. It's all worth it for the smallest of jokes that is to follow almost immediately after. Like once you're at the point where you're disliking Big for constantly pointing out that they're gay, then we have a joke where Carrie agrees, yes, they are indeed gay. This is all pretty gay.
Well, it sounds like we're going to be treading a fine line here, and I like to live on the edge.
Look, I wasn't sold on the 2.5 hour runtime earlier, but you've really got this across the line.
Okay, I've got one of you on board. Now I feel like you're still on the fence.
I am.
Charlotte. Remember Charlotte?
Oh, yeah. Charlotte.
All she wanted to do was be a wife and a mother. In this movie, she hates both those things. She is easily swayed by one of her good friends into thinking that her husband, whom we barely see, don't worry about it, he's going to cheat on her at any moment with their gorgeous, non-bra wearing nanny.
Well, we've got a lot of elements. We've got a lot of moving parts now. I'm interested.
Exactly. Hey, how about Miranda, right? Great character. She had a great arc on the show and a lot to do in the first movie. In this movie, she's basically going to just recite things she read in a travel book.
Well, you know we're both huge Pokemon fans, so this sits very well.
Did you say you're Pokemon fans?
Well, I'm getting shades of Professor Oak, if I'm being honest.
Oh, can I tell you something? I'm basing her entire character plot line on Professor Oak.
How many millions do you want? Because at this point, you've got me over a barrel, and let me just sign the check with my butt
My
cheeks.
only concern is that 2.5 hours isn't long enough to explore all of these exciting avenues of entertainment you are laying down.
Here's what I can promise you, and I give you my word as a filmmaker, because I take very seriously this business and the money that you're entrusting to me to make what I would say passes for art. This movie will be 2.5 hours long, but it will feel 10 times longer.
Done.
Shake my hand, young man.
Oh,
I think I speak for
We've
both
got
of us.
ourselves a deal.
This is
I
a
put it
proud
there.
day.
Well
This
done,
is a
you.
proud day.
We're going to write out a blank check here.
You just put in there whatever that you feel is appropriate to get this across the line. It's all yours. And thus concludes the pitch.
Yeah, very
Great
well
job.
well sold.
I hope that's how it went as well. My God. Oh.
Well, I wonder what the vetting process was for this film, if any.
In terms of people involved or the writing?
Yeah,
or...
because to make a movie, to make any kind of thing where money is at stake in show business, it goes through so many people.
Yeah.
So many people have to sign off on this, that, and the other thing. That how many people? What was the original script like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna need to punch that up a little.
Oh my God! Like how massive must that screenplay have been?
The first script that Michael Patrick King submitted was just drawings.
Crayon.
They take up a lot of page. Yeah.
But I feel like with something that has the strength of Sex and the City and the weight of Sarah Jessica Parker as the executive producer on that script, just no one's reading that.
Yeah.
Until it comes to shooting, and then you can tell. That's why everyone's kind of a little reserved with their acting, except for Baidoon. Everyone's like, whoa, Jesus, I didn't read this.
Hold on a second.
I'd be in trouble here.
Well, not everyone is reserved with their acting. There are scenes in this movie where Sarah Jessica Parker, it is like, those toys where you push the base in and then the thing flops around and then you release it and it springs back up. Like the shit that she's doing with her body, it's insane. Like, hey, calm down. Just say the words.
But she's got money. She's got skin in the game.
Of
Like the
course.
other girls with this. She's got points.
That's what it feels like. It feels like I got to really sell the shit out of this.
I'm carrying this.
Oh, my
if
God.
You'll excuse the pun.
Her and Kim Cattrall are like going insane. Yeah. There's the scene where Kim Cattrall is being held after she kisses Dick Spurt on the beach, and then she's sitting there and she's getting so upset. It's like she becomes like a silent movie actress where it's so crazily over the top, and her gestures like she might as well be holding the back of her hand to her forehead and clutching a handkerchief.
Except that's all just in subtitles along the bottom.
And may I say, as an American, your first American guest on this season?
I believe possibly ever.
Yeah.
When Ricard Spurt says to Samantha, after she finds out his name is Richard, and she instantly says, so your name is Dick Spurt. And he says, could you be any more American? I take that personally.
Really?
I'm personally insulted. Because it's like, hey, that's not every American would have said that. Do you know what I mean?
I get
If this guy had said, my name is Ricard Spurt, I wouldn't have said, oh, Dick Spurt.
Okay, so let me counter that just briefly.
Sure.
They've spent almost an entire film lampooning and belittling the Middle East.
Yes.
I think you got to chuck a few other cultures under the grinder just to kind of even the score a little bit.
I guess that makes some sense.
It's kind of, if you offend everyone, it kind of takes the heat off of it a little bit. It takes
sure.
the sting
Equal
out.
opportunity offender. I get
Sure. You see the vibe I'm on.
This brings me to my favorite. This was the one scene that I remembered from the movie the first time I saw it. When the gals are escaping the conservative Arab men who are going to have their heads chopped off or whatever for waving condoms around. And they're saved by the women in the burqas, who then reveal that they're wearing like the fall fashion line under their burqas, which there's been so much talk about how hot it is there. That they're wearing essentially 2 sets of clothes.
Yeah.
But they take this shit off. They take the burqas off, and they realize, and they reveal they have these ridiculous outfits on underneath. And there's no sense of irony about a different kind of cultural enslavement.
Yes.
No one. How in this movie is there there's like completely tone deaf of like, how is this better? That's not better.
And this.
It's
Say,
ridiculous.
this is a movie that came out in 2010. So like, this is post Iraq and Afghanistan invasion. Yeah. Stuff's happening in the world when this movie is released. It's not released into a vacuum.
Things have not gone well.
There is context, and things, as you rightly say, have not gone well.
Yes.
And just the fuck you of what has occurred in the film. The metaphor of, oh, thank God you're not really Muslim. It turns out you are the consumerist pig dog Americans that we are as well, underneath it all.
Consumers, but also you're just as much of a victim of a different kind of exploitation of women and this thing. And it's like, look, I like clothes and clothes are fun and fashion is ridiculous and everything like that. But it struck me as very weird that it's like I'm gonna put myself in uncomfortable clothes.
Yeah, for no gain as well, because they didn't anticipate running into these women and getting their kid off halfway
So
through the day.
so they're just walking around like that.
Exactly.
They're walking around like that, wearing 2 sets of clothes.
Sweating their asses
Yeah,
off for no
exactly.
reason. Oh, man.
They keep it together very well, though.
Just
They really did. They look cool as a bunch of cucumbers.
Great stuff there from us and Paul F. Tompkins as well.
We were doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, that's a good
Paul,
point.
if you can hear this, why don't you do some push-ups or something? Just work on those arms, those tries, those buys, all of the muscles.
By the way, we're back in the car now, and we're just here to inform you that was the first of the 2-parter for PFT. And in all seriousness, good God, what a gentleman, what a guy, what an absolute delight to be hanging out with. Shout out to Big Pipe again. Remember the offer, bigpipe.co.nz. When you sign up, you can get a month free with the code Worst Idea.
That's right. And
no
all
contracts, no throttling of your speed, $79 a month.
Or your neck. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. Broadband not available everywhere. Bring your own modem, because they're not going to give you one, because that's part of the cost savings. Because you're not a dum-dum. You know how to get good internet.
That's right. And for all you Americans frantically trying to redeem this coupon online, stop doing it.
You're not getting our fabulous internet. We'll be back. The second part of this episode will be up very soon, and you're going to love it. So catch you soon, ding-dongs.
A lot of D words in there.
It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time. It's the worst idea of all time.